Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Sammy Ehrenberg, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, thanks for taking some time and coming on ATV Talk. You know, I could talk here just from doing some research on you about all the things that you've done, you know, your stats and how many desert races and winnings and, just everything. But I don't think that would really put a dent in your career as far as the achievements that you've made and the things that you've done in the off-roading industry. So I want to go a different route with you if you don't mind, and maybe just talk about what it was like to race back in the glory days. And the reason I call them glory days is because things have changed so much in the modern race era. I think back when you started, suspension wasn't that great, tire technology wasn't that great, and you had to have true grit to go out and deal with the desert elements.
For sure, for sure. And it's been, quite the journey for me. And like I said before, when we talked before, I started off. It's just when I started racing three wheelers, like I started off racing bicycles, right? And that's what got me into racing at 8 years old, right? Then I started racing go-karts. And, we were at 13 years old. We were doing 100 miles an hour on go-karts. We were faster than the stock cars around Craig Road Speedway here in Las Vegas, right? So, and then I rode motorcycles and I was on motorcycles. And then as soon as I saw the first three-wheelers, they start to come out. Of course, I saw the 70s and all that stuff. But then when the 250R came out, it was like, that's what I want to do, So I started off with that, and I was one of those people. We talked before. Once I commit to something, I'm like fully committed. So I started in '81 as the '82 250R came out with the three. Bought a stock one and started riding it, and then I'm like, you know what? We're going to go out to the local motocross track, and they have three-wheelers out. I didn't even have track tires. I had the big balloon tires on, and I started. It was a night race, and it was out at the speedway, and it changed my whole career. It changed my life because I've been doing it ever since with some form of racing or another in off-road. But like I literally showed up, and I knew that we were supposed to buy those like lawnmower tires, right, for track, but there was only one set, and my buddy got them. So I was racing, so I raced with these big balloon tires, and I started off, and I could not get through the turns very well, but I had the guts just to jump the thing. And so I was clearing a double that no one else was clearing. I mean, I was clearing a double and bouncing over it with these big balloon tires, and then I get tore apart in the turns. So that was Moto 1 of the first race that I ever raced on a three-wheeler in novice. And there was actually, I have pictures of it, there was actually 20, 25 guys on the line. They didn't have enough rubber band. We were starting with rubber bands back then. They didn't have enough room. You had to start 2 rows deep. And for the second moto of that night, somebody gave me track tires to use, and I ended up winning the moto. So that hooked me, hook, line, and sinker. And like you said, and I was pretty much on a stock buying aftermarket boost bottles, uh, from DG, I think they were boost bottles, and
Right.
aftermarket head, and thought we knew something, which we didn't. And then, yeah, we went to started racing from there, and then like you said, it was the glory days. Like, I'm reading Three Wheeler magazine and Dirt Wheels and all this stuff, all these magazines, and I'm like, Dean Sundall's one of my idols. Like, I'm looking at Dean Sundall and Mark Waxeldorf, uh, uh, Steve Wright, and all those guys on Honda. I'm watching Jimmy White, and I'm watching them, and we're like, this is what I want to do. So I'm racing locally, and I don't care who you are, but you will be humbled once you expand in racing, in any form of racing. So I started racing. I was doing great. I moved up to amateur here, and uh, me and my buddy Joey McCallie go, you know what? Let's try this in the desert. Like, we ride all the time, and I was so dedicated. I practiced every day after school. I had tracks. I had desert courses. So I would take my three-wheeler and I would ride constantly every day. Like, I just loved it. So I went out and like I talked to you before, our first race was uh, 82 Parker 400. And we had no idea what we were doing. No idea. And we went out there, and we knew from just being around a little bit uh, back in the day of the Met that we were going to go out and we were going to do our homework, and we were going to pre-run, because you could pre-run back then. So we drove ourselves, we're 16 years old, 16, 17 years old, and drove ourselves uh, to Parker, got a little motel room and started pre-running, and then went from there. It was just uh, we started off. There was 30 something guys in the class, and you're looking at all these guys that you idolize. And being a kid, I was intimidated, and we took off, right, and didn't have the greatest of runs, but we still finished like 10th out of everybody with what we had. So the next year we came back, and we came back with the new 83 bike, and we had a big desert tank on, and we had swing arm on it, and some suspension work that we knew. We did our own suspension, tried to do it with springs and stuff, and we went out and we actually competed, like, with these fast guys. Then I go, you know what? I'm just going to do both. I'll get two bikes, and that's how much I loved it, and that's where it started for me. And I'll do both. And I was doing both, and then I moved my way up to expert here in Las Vegas, and then in motocross and in desert, right? And I won my way up. Always did the right thing. I didn't just move myself up like a lot of guys did. And I raced in St. George. I raced in Utah. And I was beating the pros, and I was fortunate. I was doing good, and so I go. I'm gonna go out and race these guys in California. I'm gonna show up to a Mickey Thompson race, and I showed up to Pomona, and uh, I literally got lapped, and I thought I was the guy. I thought that I'm gonna compete with these guys that I compete with in the desert, in motocross, in the GPs. And I didn't even qualify my first couple races, but I kept working at it, and I got speed. Of course, I didn't have what they had as far as motors and all that stuff, but I learned my way through it. But it will humbleize you very quick. This sport will humbleize you, and if you're not humbleized, then you don't need to be in it, because I've always said this with my whole career starting off. I've beaten the best, and I've been beat by the best, and I've been beat by people that are just coming up, and I accept.
How many times has the desert beat you?
Oh, well, so um, the desert actually is. it's very unforgiving. So
That's a nice way of putting that, isn't it?
yes. So I can tell you the very first, and this is what I mean. There was no stopping me after this. So we went and raced the '83 Frontier 500, right? And Team Honda's there, and uh, we couldn't get a desert tank. It was '83 or '84. We couldn't get a desert tank, and we show up. Well, anyways, talking about the desert winning. So I raced against these guys, and we started in Sloan down the street from where I live now, um, right outside of Main Vegas. And I took off, and I swear I had no pace to me. I crashed 4 times, 4 times in the first 60 miles. And how the bike survived it, I have no idea. I have no idea. But I was wearing some old AXO boots that lace up in the front underneath the strap, and it caught the foot peg and it dragged me down the hill with it. And I got back up, and I kept passing the same guys that I was. Well, I ended up at pit one, and I was the third bike through, and Wes McCoy, I think, was the guy back then, and he took down all these times, and he walked up and said, you know, you're right there with us. We're watching you. And I was like, that was it for me. I didn't have to race another mile. I was like stoked. And my teammates got on, and we got into this race, and Honda had some problems, and I bolted out to the lead and led the thing all the way to the finish, almost to the finish. And we ran out of gas, and Honda waited until their bike passed us. And then 20 minutes after that, somebody gave me gas as I sat in the pit 30 miles from the finish as a rookie. Like, just, I talk about having your heart fall into your lap, and then the desert beating you. But uh, uh, it's happened a lot in my career where the desert will humbleize you for sure. And it, a lot of times it wins, but the way I look at it, you got to try and outsmart it. And you got to run your race, and you got to race the desert.
Did that get you tied in with Honda at that point?
So they definitely started noticing me at these races. I never was like, so I became friends with. He was always really nice to me. Dean was always really nice to me too. Dean Sundall, but Mark Waxeldorf was always really nice and giving me tips and stuff. But I showed up at like all these major desert races as a privateer. I showed up at everything. The World Championship here in Hounds. I showed up at the Vegas 400s because it was in my backyard. I actually was very fortunate. I won it back-to-back years, and just had good runs. I think because I had the experience of being out here in Vegas and riding in the desert all the time. It was a natural equalizer for me. Listen, no one's touching Dean Sundall when he was on he wasn't having problems. I don't care who you are. That's my opinion because I saw it. I beat the guy heads up one time in my career, and that was in the Baja 1000 when I raced for Honda on the quad. So, and he was on an open bike, but I wouldn't say it was heads up because they had some problems, right? But,
well, I mean, that's in desert racing. That's part of it. To finish first, you must first finish.
Yeah, right. But he was the guy that I would look for, and then everybody always, you were foolish if you didn't expected it. Him or Wax or those guys were going to be the first ones through. You know, I saw Dean Sundall and Parker one time. He was the fastest bike ATV or ATC, and when he was riding the Yamaha with Brent Driscoll in Parker, he hit this bump going so fast. I was waiting in the pit to get on the bike near Rice in a place called Thunder. I think it's called is it called Thunder Alley? In Parker. Well, anyways, I never seen anything like it. I was so impressed, and I'm one of those guys that it takes a lot to impress me, like thoroughly impress me, like the way that guy just he was unbelievable the way he rode those things. So anytime I was within minutes of those guys, I was winning. I was doing good, right? So and I just kept pressing, and I had good rides, and I started to learn as you learn, and then you learn the desert, you learn what racing's about, you learn how to do it right. As far as I had my fair share of crashes because I was a little kid. I was 135 pounds, and I was only 4'10". So my teammate now that I race with in the cars, Ronnie Wilson, he was a big, long, skinny, long-legged guy, and he could just throw it around. So with me, I learned the hard way. I was like, I would press, and have get offs, and not the desert won a lot of those times when I was doing that, and I couldn't get back up because I broke stuff or knocked myself out. But over the years, I just kept at it and just learning technique, learning from other guys. I would talk with anybody that would talk with me.
Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, Score, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs.
Which was those guys. I swear we were kids. I was a little runt. There was nothing to me. 135 pounds, but I went for it. I could say that.
Do you think your size hurt you overall?
I do, and some of the as far as holding on and so like you said in the beginning, the suspension wasn't there. So some of these guys like Ronnie Wilson and even Wax, he's kind of long-legged and tall. Dean was just like he was stocky. He could manhandle a three-wheeler, right, and a quad. But I didn't have the strength then. But yeah, it did hamper us because a lot of the like those taller guys would take up the suspension with their legs, and the tires weren't great back in the day as far as what they are now, and so a lot of preload and not knowing anything about suspension and just trying to figure it out myself and figure it out with people locally and trying to make it the best. But it definitely hurts when you're 135 pounds and that thing weighs 200 pounds, and it's just you're trying to set the suspension, the spring rate, and all that stuff. I don't think they had a spring light enough for me.
Yeah, because the average weight that guesstimation that Honda built those for was like 100 180-pound rider.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So right there, the stock suspension's too stiff for you out of the box.
Yeah. And it would, a lot of the times, like when I had huge wrecks, I mean, it was those type of scenarios. It would preload, and then and just be too stiff and just kick me off the bike. There's no way you're hanging on unless you
Right,
stepped on it. So, but we eventually got there. When the 85 came out, um,
right.
I really liked that right out of the box. I liked it. It was just much better, but I wouldn't change things. I mean, as they progressed from 81 to 85, I mean, that was a huge suspension difference back then, So,
That was better power, better suspension.
yeah,
If they wouldn't have stopped making three-wheelers in 86, could you imagine where they'd be today if they would have kept building them?
yeah, yeah. And not I rode the Ducatis. I rode that I rode the Yamaha,
YZ?
yeah, tries these. But the way that the patents that the Honda had, where the foot pegs or the bike was really balanced. So I wouldn't have raced. I I would have raced anything because I'm that guy. But I wouldn't have want to. I didn't think that when Dean and Driscoll did that Yamaha thing, we actually, I actually in Parker finished second to them, right? And that's when it snowed there, and we were freezing, and I flatted right at the end, and I had to ride a flat for a while, but I didn't think they had a chance, like to just beat up on everybody, which they kind of beat up on us a little bit, but not too bad for two young kids, but with 40 something three wheelers in there. But they had that bike. I don't know what they did to do it, but they had that bike working so well. It worked so well. I rode one and I couldn't wait to get off of it. I was like, nah, this doesn't work. And the guy had suspension done on it. It didn't work for me at all. I didn't like the way it just didn't feel balanced to me. So it could have been just Dean's riding ability. He could race a shopping cart and probably whoop on everybody,
Yeah, he's a very talented guy.
Yeah.
It's not taking anything away from you or some of the other guys. I want to ask some questions about, since you've raced so many races, you probably have some really cool stories about some of the things that had happened out on the race course that you and maybe other racers are the only ones that ever really get to know about them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's plenty, and especially like in Mexico. You know, like I said, I got hook, line, and sinker when I raced in '86 down there on the quad, and we won the Peninsula Run. And it was um, from then on going down there, and the stories and the people you meet, and the time you take down there, and it's not just that; it's the things you see out there. People don't realize the Baja Coast, they have huge mountains. They have they have everything that a racer like you would think that's out there that you would want to see and more. Like, I mean, you drop into water crossings, you drop into or go into the mountains, and there's 1,000-foot cliffs. If you make a mistake there, you're probably not coming back, right? Like they're near Gonzaga Bay before they paved it. There was a good, it had to be a good 800-foot cliff on the race course. And I ended up at night in the dust past a pro truck in my 1600 car going on for the win in '06 that I hung the ends, and I'm afraid of heights, and I hung the inside wheel on the inside and passed this guy. He wasn't even in my class, in the dust, and I had amber lights, and I just ran two little small amber lights in the dust, and I could go up through his dust, and they were struggling. Well, that guy came and got me a year later when I was in Laughlin and said, who's the guy that is racing this car? And I go, were you the guy in the pro truck? And I go, that was me in the car. He goes, I've never seen anything like that. He goes, and I don't know how you did it with that clip being there. So we're saying those are things that you see in Mexico. Now, stories in racing in the States and racing in Mexico. I mean, listen, I always said it. I've experienced things that not very many people get to experience, as far as being very blessed and humble that I've got to do these things. But racing in Mexico, I've met the best, and I've met some pretty bad people. Like I've had, and you can never say never, but I had an accident down there, and I was pre-running, and I got very, very hurt, and I ended up uh, going to a hospital half or three-quarters of the way down the peninsula, and I actually got taken out of the hospital and thrown in a holding cell, all broken up, and I got whisked away in a cop car that was an old beat up Caprice in a town called Constitution. I'm sure you know of it, but
Yeah.
Constitution, which I don't like that little part. Love Mexico, love the people there, but I don't like that part. And I spent 2.5 hours, and I lost my memory, and it was just a mess. But that was a bad time, right? And then, but I ran
Why did they arrest you?
because I was involved in an accident, and they take both people. It was kind of an extortion thing, and they extorted me for almost $6,000 to get out of this holding cell. I met supposedly the sheriff. I met the undersheriff. I met the people that grabbed me and tried to intimidate me. And meanwhile, I had a broken leg in two places, and I had two broken ribs near my spine, and I had a major concussion. So I'm sitting in this holding room, and I'm like, you know what? This is unreal. Like, am I going home from here? Like, this is making me have like a bad taste in my mouth right now. And I didn't have anybody with me because they whisked me off. Well, finally, I hear a pre-runner pull up. So I know there's two guys there that are waiting outside for me. And long story short, it was about 2.5 hours of misery being in there. And I got out and put my head down, and I raced 5 days later, and I won the 2014 championship with Kevin Smith and FSM in a 1600 car. So
with a broken leg.
broken leg in two spots, and then I knew my leg was broke, but I wouldn't let the doctor look at it. And then I didn't say anything to anybody, but my ribs were very concerning because I couldn't breathe. And then I was telling the guy that first time down in Mexico, he just chased me all the way down. I brought him from my work, and I was at the pit, and this is 5 days later. I got in a pre-runner every day from the day of the accident, and did my homework, and with someone driving me. And then I was get in the car, and I said, what if I can't do this? What if I can't make it? What if I get down the road and I can't breathe and I can't make it? And I drove 300 miles, knocked the wind out of myself probably every other corner, and finished and drove straight home from La Paz about 20 something hours with 3 hours sleep after, just to get across the border and get back here. And then I realized how hurt I really was. Yeah. And then it was just one of those stories, but I had my teammates the support of my teammates, and they were going to fly me home. They knew how hurt I was. They were going to put me on a plane and fly me home. And I'm like, nope. And I was 50 years old at the time. So I go, I've been so close to winning these score championships for years, and we're going to do this. So I made it happen, and I had my teammates Kevin Smith and Bean Smith. They're still my teammates to this day in the cars, but they drove some extra miles. So I only had to do 300 instead of 550 to the finish. So I actually finished at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't even lift myself out of the car. So that was a bad time. Now there's
Well, wait a minute. You won a championship injured. Yes. Okay, kids, if you're listening to this, go to the hospital, get checked out, get taken care of. I don't know if your parents would approve, but Sammy was definitely old enough to make these choices on his own. Sammy, I'd made the same choice you did, but that's not saying that we're the smartest breed ever
exactly
to race. But okay.
yeah.
Go on with a good story, even though I think that was a great one.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, so that was a time where I had serious ups and downs in Mexico and didn't know if I wanted to go back. But then I promised my wife Dina that I was probably done with Mexico, and then I went back 3 years later and won the overall in a 10-car overall buggy with the RPI team, but I've had the best times, like just even going pre-running with my buddies. It's such an adventure, and I've I've had the Mexican nationals, the people down there. They brought me into their homes, cooked me food right there while we're racing. You're in somebody's home, like people they can't even imagine that stuff. And it's some of the best food I've ever eaten in my life, right? And
Isn't it? It is.
because
Awesome.
you know what? It's all natural food. It's just there's no preservatives, just stuff. And it might take a little bit to get used to, but I love eating down there. But I've given back. I've gone to these missions. I've given the kids. We take every year for the 1,000 when we go pre-running. The biggest thing, everybody knows in Mexico is stickers, stickers, stickers. Well, I'm telling you what, candy. After Halloween, you bring Halloween candy down there, you're as good as gold for them. So I've gone to missions. I've given back to the kids. I've made sure that the kids down there, because you're their heroes down there, and no matter what. And a lot of the stuff that they go, can we take a picture, or can we have your autograph or whatever? And who am I? I'm just an old racer, right? But I will pick these kids up, put them in the race trucks. I put kids in $500,000, $750,000 race trucks. Sit in the front seat, have your dad take a picture of you now. Like let's do this, to give back to the fans down there. So they've been, I've always respected the desert, and I respect where I'm at, right? So I've had like I said, greatest of times. I've had a few bad times, but I will tell you, like you said, I don't think kids should make those decisions and follow after you and I. But that the same year that I had the crash, and went to the hospital in June. So June, July, August, September, October, November, like 6 months before that, we were racing the 500 because we had to race the whole series. And there's a place called Mike's Sky Ranch, and it's great. And if you've ever been out there, you can't explain it to people because it's run on a generator at 9 o'clock. Unless you got people in the bar and they're willing to pay, they shut the generator off and it goes pitch black, right? So I came around a place called Rancho El Coyote, and my teammate goes, I need you to do this section. Uh, uh, you weren't supposed to do it. And I was like, whatever for you. I'll do whatever for you, Kevin. And you know that. So I did this Rancho El Coyote loop through the silt, through the rocks, and there was a bunch of bottlenecks. I got through it, got by Mike's, and I go, great. Now I know I'm on the fast road all the way down to the road, to the asphalt. And I'm coming down, and I had a couple S turns, and I just shifted into fourth gear in a 1600 car, and I was probably doing 70 miles an hour, and approximately probably 15, maybe 1,700 pounds bull jumped off the side like it was throwing a rider and spun around, and I went and dead stop from 70. And I
Oh,
and this is the thing here. So I had 2 major concussions, but um, it stopped the car and kind of like lifted it off the side, and I blew right through it. And thankfully, God's watching over me. I hit him in the right, I hit him in the flank and blasted through this thing. And it was very emotional for me, but it was such an impact that everything did its job. The harnesses, my neck device, my helmet, uh, all this stuff did its due diligence, right, and saved my life. But uh, I got the car fired up again, and the reason why I'm leading to this story is because this was that championship year, so there was no giving up. I got it to so I stopped in these trees that there's a branch sticking this far from my chest on a 10-foot thing, and it stopped. So I looked down, and the impact was so severe, it knocked my visor up, and I had blood, feces, um, stomach, hair, bone in my R3. I still have that R3, by the way. Still have the helmet on my trophy wall. And then in my mouth, and it was the worst smell I've ever smelled in my life, of just something rotted and dead. And it happened that quick. And I got to the finish line. I was determined to get down. I pulled into the pit, and I still had 200 miles to go. And they were going to change my visor, but I go, I'm okay. I'm okay. Just call this in because that's somebody's livelihood. So you can call it into score ops, right? Which we did. And my crew chief started throwing up. It smelled so bad. And I had to sit in that car for another 3 to 4 hours racing it. So,
wow.
uh, so after that, this is how I get this nickname. So everybody's making fun. They know I'm emotional about it, and they're like, we're having steak for dinner and all this stuff. Well, now I have one of my helmets is I had my painter. He painted a bull on it, so they call me Sammy the Bull, and it has a gold ring on it. So, but I never gave up, and I've never been that guy to give up. But that was all in one year, in 2014. So
Wow, that's a hell of a year.
yeah,
And to win the title with all that going on,
yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
and to just it's very time consuming, but like I said, in off road racing, I don't care what it is. Like, listen, I love the UTVs, I love the 3-wheelers. That's been my passion since I was young, and I I rekindled that passion once I met Dave Ham and the TPC guys and Dave Wiley and all that stuff, because it never went away from me, right? But I get to race through the desert on anything, and it's invigorating. It's just something that I do, and like I said, I've been very blessed over my career, if you call it a career, of racing and having an opportunity to race with great people and just great ambassadors of the sport. And I hope at the end of my career that I'm able to say that I was one of those guys that people looked up to as far as an ambassador of this sport. So
Brother, you've been around a long time. You've done a lot of cool stuff.
yeah.
So that brings me to this. Doing some research, pasta fuel and hydrogen water. What's up with that?
Where'd you get that from?
It doesn't matter where I got it.
So so remember when we talked last time, right?
Yep.
So I said if I knew what I knew then, like what I know now, as far as training wise, there really wouldn't have been stopping me. Like I didn't know the stuff that I know, but my wife Dina thinks that I'm crazy, but I drink hydrogen water, right? And then I try all these different things that work for me and give me natural energy, right? No energy drinks anymore, none of that kind of stuff, no caffeine in my body. And like I talked about before, when I get ready for these big night races and when I know I'm going to be up, sleep deprivation, it's just the things that I do. But I don't know where you found it at, but I kind of keep those kind of things to myself and just I I I work hard at.
Are you ready to be captivated by one of nature's masterpieces? Discover the breathtaking beauty of Antelope Slot Canyon, a natural wonder in Page, Arizona. Join us on a guided tour and immerse yourself in the mystical light beams, rich colors, and serene landscapes. With tours at prime sunbeam hours, experience photographer's paradise and capture memories that will last a lifetime. Comfortable shoes, a camera, and a smile are all you need for this adventure. Book your journey today at Antelope Slot Canyon Tours and let the canyon enchant you. Please visit us now, antelopeslotcanyon.com, for more details.
The drive to win. And those are some of the things that help me.
Is that why you night train as well? Because you drive at night, so you have to be prepared to exert that energy in the evening when your body's wanting to sleep?
Yes, absolutely. And then, just I, I'll train here, but I'll go down to Mexico. But when like say for instance, when I pre-run for the 1,000, um, a lot of times I get asked to do a lot of the night sections. Well, I'll pre-run it in the daytime, one time, maybe twice, and then I'll go pre-run my whole section at night, nonstop. Like we leave, we'll leave the hotel room after dinner. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm loading up people, whoever wants to go with me, because I'm going to run my section. So not only does when I'm in a two-seater, because a lot of times I'm in a single seat, right, and I'm by myself, or I'm on a quad. The first time I ever pre-ran, or when I won the 1,000 with Honda in '86 on the quad, I pre-ran my own three-wheeler, not knowing what I was doing, but I pre-run for 14 hours because I got lost. I had to bum gas. Like it was one of those things, and I made it, and I was so overwhelmed. But that's what I've always done, and right before that, I was riding at night a lot here, getting ready for it. And I don't know what it is. I really acclimate pretty well to the nighttime, and uh, it's you got to train your brain. You're gonna think like they've always said it. I think Johnny or somebody said it in Dust to Glory. Johnny Campbell, who's a friend of mine, and his wife Faye. But things pop out at you at night in the desert. Like you think you see things, and you got to train yourself to be acclimated, and you're going to be tired. You're going to be ultra focused, more than in the daytime, because you're trying to see past the lights and focus in. So I train on all that stuff, and I try to. I I believe it helps me. I believe it helps me, and even if it's going out at night and running at night, or uh, on my motorcycle, or on the three wheeler, or which I don't get a lot of test time on the three wheeler, but I do those kind of things. And then, like I said, natural energy, whatever I feel like is going to make my body feel the best. If, like I said, if I would have known that when I was younger and just didn't have that young, invincible feeling like I do now, I would have been so much better, because that's my edge to the younger generation and the younger guys is you better be on your game as far as physical wise, because I will be. And that I've always used it like that. And since after I learned that. So I want legs at the end of the at the end of a 1,000-mile race. At the end of my stint, I want legs. I don't want to be tired. I don't want to uh, uh, I don't want to be fatigued, and I definitely don't want to be like where I'm almost falling asleep. Because I'm so tired. So you train that. You prepare yourself ahead of time. Stay up late and at night, and then very little sleep, and just keep doing it and train for it.
That's crazy. That's crazy that you you're right, but it's still crazy because not everybody will sacrifice in that fashion to be that good at those times. So hats off, brother. I think that's pretty cool.
Thank
What are your favorite wins?
So, I gotta say that just they let me put it this way. So I've been very blessed in Mexico. So obviously, winning the peninsula run as many times as I have, not many people get that chance to do that. So that's huge, and I've won it in 4 different classes, right? So uh, uh, or I won the peninsula run 3 times in 3 different classes, right? And then I finally won the loop race, which in 22, which has been a long time coming, because I finished second, I finished third, but a lot of times, uh, some of my favorite times might not have been a win when I rode my best, or rode. Obviously, the wins are so exciting, and you once you do it, you want to repeat it as many times as you can. And it's my friend Ralph Chadwick says it's so easy. It's really hard to win races, but it's so easy to lose them. And just to have the opportunity for years in a row, when you're halfway or 3/4 of the way down the peninsula, and you have an opportunity to win this big giant race, or even just like the Nevada 1000 or the Baja Nevada, the opportunity, you better cherish the opportunity. So those are the thousands are probably some of my favorite wins. The definitely the 500, I used to say, was my race, because I was always in the top 3, and we did some numbers one time, and I just ran up there in the top 3. I think my worst finish after like 10 of them was a 6th place finish, right? And then I don't know what it was, and I attributed it to um, just being blessed that Mexico liked me, and then obviously Mint 400 is huge for me because it's in my backyard. Um, they're all special in their own way. They really are, and it's not just me; it's the team that's winning, and it's my teammates that drive with me that allow me the opportunity, as well as I do them, to win these big races and have that camaraderie. with each other, and yeah, and like I said before, the people around me, I have the best people in the sport around me. I don't care uh, whether it's on a motorcycle or a three-wheeler or a quad or in a $750,000 car. Um, I have the best people around me that understand we're all still doing it. We're all still doing it. That's what means the most to me is, we're talking 50 years down the road and we're all still doing it, you know?
Speaking of the guys that you still do it with, whether it be crew members, competitors, or just friends, who are some of the people that shaped you as a racer or shaped your career?
Well, like I talked about before, starting off in learning racing, the idols that I had, like Dean and Wax and those guys, and learning from them and trying to study and then help shaping. But I can tell you the people that vested in me the most and shaped my career uh, uh, was Wilson Motorsports, Ronnie Wilson, Randy Wilson, Rick Wilson. Uh, those guys believed in me and gave me the opportunity to race and do the things because they saw the potential in me, and I mentored their kids when I was older, and did stuff that a lot of people probably wouldn't do. Not everybody can ride and race cars and do that stuff or take people out for hours at a time and and test and and talk. A lot of it's mental, as you know, and and just give insight to what you experienced. And they let me do that, and I did that back for them. The Wilsons, Kevin Smith was the same way. Uh, uh, I've just had really, really um, good, good teammates. A guy named LJ Kennedy, Derek Nye. There's so many. Shane. Um, Wayne. There's so many people that I've been around, and um, in racing, you have to have an open mind, and you, I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and if you go about it, don't. Oh, sorry. There goes my foot. So if you go through that, um, if you have that mindset, I believe you will succeed in this sport and always give back to the people that gave to you, and I don't care what it is, and just show up there. Some of these race teams that put me and gave me the opportunity, I make sure they know that if I need to go down to the shop and sweep the floor, I'll sweep the floor. If I need to go out and mentor one of their kids, I'll go out and mentor one of their kids. I'll take the time because they took the time to me and really gave me the opportunity. And another one, my teammates that just pushes me to no end, and I've learned a lot from. There's actually two of them, and I've known one. One's the greatest the goat in the desert of all time, which is Rob McCachran, and he's a dear friend of mine. Him and his family. I was always around him, so I learned so much from him. And he watched me race three-wheelers when he was in cars, and then Larry Job, still to this day, that guy pushes me to excel in the sport and whatever we're racing, and that's why we're all still together. We still have this camaraderie with this old guy team that we race every year in the Mint against these young kids that have the same opportunities that I had with the same sponsors coming up, and there's this big rivalry now, so it's pretty cool, really cool.
It is. It is. I think back so often about moments and memories. That brings me to this portion of my questioning of you. Um, you've been around so long and you've done so many different things and you've seen so many different things. We all have funny experiences that help shape us as competitors, whether they lighten the mood for us to teach us that, their bigger picture, that it's only a race. And sometimes it makes us more serious because there's people around us that count on us.
Right.
It's a good story that you could come up with to tell the fans. Maybe it's something that they've never heard about you or your team that would set the tone for either the funny moment or the serious moment or both.
So right. So when you go into these races, and then the people that I have around me, it's like, so you start off with the pre-runs, or maybe you don't pre-run, but you have to look at this sport like, I've looked at it. It's fun. First thing, it's got to be fun. And if it's not fun, why am I doing it? Because we're not making money at this, right? And even though some of the races, they say you're racing professional, and they blah blah blah, you're not making money at it. So you have to have fun and these good people around you. So, like, case in point with the Wilsons, I mean, we go down to the 1,000, they bring 70 people with them, right? But there's certain people that I've been going with to Mexico for 30 years that I feel safe with. But all I do when I'm down there is they lighten the mood so much. They make me laugh so much. I don't laugh that much. And I never stop laughing when I'm down there. And like you said, it lightens the mood because everybody knows, especially with me, I'm a very, very nervous person starting a race. Sometimes I don't show up, but a lot of times I do. I get nervous, and they they break the monotony of the racing and just knowing that they're there for you, and the stories we can tell, like I'm telling you, and then afterwards. So I have people around me that um, make me laugh. I've laughed with, I've cried with, I've got injured with, right? And we banded together, and like I said, after 40 years, we still haven't stopped doing what we're doing because of the passion that we have of and just being able to race in the desert together and still all be together after 40 years. I mean, how many people have 40-year friendships? And I have this race community that I'm still involved with. And most of these people are the same people that uh, I raced with 40 years ago. And we're still all busting each other's chops. And we're still all there for each other when we need to be, whether it's personal lives or it's the thing that we get to do the most and have the most fun with is racing, right? And to get the call and to know that we're all still like super into it, and people find other things to do after a couple of years of doing something, and we don't want to do anything else. We want to go racing with our friends, and just like I I've always heard about you, right? When you asked me to be on your show, I'm in complete awe. Like that humblizes me. Like I even asked Dave Ham. I'm like, why me? I'm just an old washed up racer, right? But that's the way I look at it. But I get to meet people that I idolized and looked at and I'm like, holy cow! I wonder what it would be like to ride one of his bikes or ride one, or race one of his motors and see, like, those are the things that I think about you. And then when and how I went through, when I'm racing the cars, and I'm like, I'm racing 1,600 cars and that's a driver's class. And I go, yeah, man, if I just got one time get the opportunity to race a 10 car or uh, maybe in a limited car or a trophy truck, and I had those opportunities. So I instantly get humbleized. Like, and then I look back at it and I'm like, really, why me? But when it came down to it, I've always paid my dues and had the passion to do it. And I just, and I want to keep on doing, I want to experience new things in racing, right? Like in desert racing and whatever kind of racing. But I want to experience new things. Like one of the things that I was going to tell you is I asked Dave Ham, I said, yeah, the three wheeler, I love that thing, right? But you know what I'd love to try and do again, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, if I ever got an opportunity, is race a quad again in one of these races. Like I haven't been on a quad for so long. I would love to see what that would be about. Like race in one of the top classes on a quad. So, whether it happens or not, I don't know. But I know for one thing, like I said, I've met a lot of great people as well as yourself, like that enjoy this sport and really the things that you're doing just with this podcast and getting it out there. That those are the things that mean the most to me. My family comes first, and then the rest of it, this is a race family. They know it, and um, uh, that means a lot to me to keep these things going. I want my grandkids to experience my grand boys. I have three of them, and I want them to experience. If they want to race, I want them to race. I don't know if it'd be a motorcycle, but maybe a quad, or maybe the trophy carts or whatever. I want them to experience what I experienced, like we talked about earlier. Was seeing some of the things that I've seen in the desert, met some of the people that I've met in all forms of racing, especially what we do, and get to for them to live those stories that I tell them about. And maybe, and there's not a lot of people that can say that, maybe you're fortunate to have a career, if you call it that, a career where you've actually have some great races under your belt and some wins and something to fall back on when I can't do this anymore, which I don't think is anytime soon, but that's the way I look at it.
Well, that's pretty awesome. My glasses just broke, but oh well.
Oh,
It happens. That's what happens when you patch them together for years and years and years, and you're supposed to go buy new ones like your wife told you to, and you don't do it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, the one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I appreciate all the kind words towards me. Um, I have had a stellar run for the time that I got to go racing. I can't say that it's done, but I don't see me jumping into building some race bikes or anything like that instantly. But if it came around for it to happen again, I would definitely do my best to field a team and go out and do it, because for me the passion's still there. And I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure that when I ask you what keeps the passion alive, where does it come from? I can't answer that question myself, because it's just a burning desire that when you put the task in front of me and say, hey, well, we don't think you can do it, but here you go try. Uh, you shouldn't have said that, because that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to happen. So you better get your wallet out, because you're going to owe at the end of this, because I'm not going to lose.
Right. Yeah. And I do. Uh, I just I have a love for this sport and all of it. I really do. And like I said earlier, when we talked the last time, it kept me out of a lot of trouble, and I didn't. Um, I just wanted to dedicate myself to this sport, and the fact that I never got burned out on it. Sometimes it amazes me. I never got burned out. I will still be a desert rat and get in the dirt and be dirty for, go down to Mexico and pre-run for 3 days in the same Levi's that you pre-run in every day, and smelly and dirt, and I wouldn't change it for nothing.
It's freaking awesome. That's why.
Yeah. And the things so I've got to do all sides of the peninsula, right? So
Right.
I've raced every part of I've done the starts, I've done the middle, I've done the finishes, went all the way zigzagged in the 2000 to Cabo, right? And I've done that. I've raced to Cabo a couple times, but just to see two coasts, and one at night in the daytime, back at night, and then the people, the animals, the things that you think you see out there, it drives me. I don't know. It drives me.
That's exactly what the answer I was looking for. What's your favorite track to race or course?
I will say a lot of the courses in Vegas, as far as, well, let's put it this way, on a three-wheeler or whatever, I like the Vegas to Reno, or three-wheeler or quad Vegas to Reno, or the Baja Nevada, with the Legacy Group and stuff like that. When it comes to cars, I think the ultimate test is probably the Mint 400, and then the Baja 1000, for sure, is the ultimate test for me. And yeah, those are probably some of my favorite. I'm biased here because the Mint's in my backyard. It's 20 minutes away from my house, and I go out there all the time. I've ridden that valley so much, but it never gets any easier, and it's technical, and it will separate the drivers and the riders from the non-drivers and riders. And like I said, the last couple years, I've been fortunate to race two classes in one weekend, which is the car, and then I race the motorcycle, and it's it's a lot of fun. And then at the end of the day, if you're fortunate, like I have been, and you have good runs, the stories you get to tell, and just the craziness of all of it, and just like on the with the three-wheeler that we just raced in Baja Nevada or whatever, you're doing 90 miles an hour, and it's 3:30 in the morning, and sometimes you think to yourself, like, what am I doing? I'm 60 years old, am I? But then after it's all said and done, you're loving telling that story.
Right.
That story. And so, but yeah, the courses, I've been fortunate to race all over. So, I like some of the newer stuff, the newer courses, and now with these UTVs being so fast and so good, maybe one of these times I had an opportunity a couple of years ago to drive one them for the factory Polaris. I was going to back up some of my friends, and I couldn't do it because of the Formula One race here in Las Vegas, and I had to work it. But I wish I would have taken that offer, but because it'll probably never come around again. But I would say that yeah, for the state races, it's definitely the Mint for me, and for Mexico, it's definitely the Peninsula Run for me. When you show up, there's no better feeling when you show up and you cross the finish line, and you're almost 1,200 miles down the peninsula, and you've been going for a day or a day and a half. Now it's a lot faster, and we get
I got to experience it as a chaser, never as a racer. But yeah, it's even chasing the race for that long is pretty incredible.
You cannot win that race unless your chase crews are top notch guys and they win the race for you. I don't care who you are. If you don't have those guys and they don't have the passion like you do and I do for it, and they're going to drive in a truck together, 3 or 4 trucks, and there's 3 to 4 people in these trucks for 26, 28 hours all together and not want to kill each other and just have a good time and do it safely or whatever, you yeah, that's the experience. That's the experience for me. And then knowing that I'm the guy that gets all the credit, and it's not me. They should get all the credit, and I make sure I thank them every time. That because they're there for me. They allow me to go out and win these races. It's not them. Can you imagine if they didn't do it or didn't have the passion? What are you going to do? You're going to pull up to a fuel stop and nobody's going to be there, or nobody's going to change your tire, or nobody's going to put you back together when you crash and get hurt and say you can do this. I had that in a 3-wheeler race, and I'll never forget it. It was they called it the World Championship Hare and Hound, and I had went off the smoke bomb start, and I had a good run. I got kind of a crappy start, and I got behind, and I was on the fast road, and I went to pass the quad, and he came over and hit wheels with me, and I went flying. And long story short, I smashed my collarbones. I was bleeding. I almost knocked myself out. I ended up upside down in a cactus, and I got myself up, and I got myself to a pit, and there was actually I got myself to a pit, and I was pulling over, like I was done. And my pit crew were like, Sammy, you can do. I was bleeding. I had B2000s. You remember B2000s, JT, the shoulder pads? It had blown them apart. And my friends duct taped me back together, literally duct taped me with gray duct tape and taped my collarbone and said, you can do this, and we're going to be here at the finish line. And I had 60, 70 miles to go. And I rode a flat for 30 before I got to them. And then I got to that, and I got to the finish line, and Dean Sundall saw me, and he was old. I was a kid. He had a big bottle of champagne that they gave him for winning, and he destroyed everybody like he always does. And he came up and goes, I was a kid. He goes, take a swig off of this. He goes, you need this way more than I do. But the fact that he took the time to walk over to me, that I made it, and then my crew was there for me when I showed up on the line and could barely get off the bike myself. That's what it's all about. I mean, I'm lucky to have, I have very few friends, but the friends that I do in the off-road community, they're there for me. I'm there for them. And I love meeting new people, and the people that actually take the time out of their work weeks and their days to go chase me. That's when I get humbleized. Like, why? I get it. I would do it for them, but the why is because they have a passion for the sport, and they when I win, they win, and and I couldn't win without them.
Is there any racer, whether it be driver or rider, that you have a dream to watch or compete with?
Yeah. So well, first of all, and it's going to show my age, but I was way too young to ever compete. But my idol was Steve McQueen, right? And race cars, race motorcycles, and stuff. And then also Malcolm Smith, right? And Malcolm Smith was my hero in everything, right? And uh, when I was in Mexico in 1986, I wasn't racing with him. Well, I was racing in the same race that he was in, but when I was pre-running, I got lost, and I got to follow him in through this fish camp, and I didn't know where I was going, but I got to follow him in a fish camp, and I'm like, this guy is the legend of our sport, and I'm going to be racing on the same course at the same time that he's on. So that was one of my, that was awesome, awesome feeling to know that I was doing that. And then, like I said, I've got to race with the GOAT, Rob. He's raced with me in my car. We finally teamed up after all these years. And then I've raced against, Robbie Gordon and those guys, maybe not in the same classes. Sometimes it is. And then the Larry Raglins of the sport and Larry Rossler, all those guys, and just getting to actually be around those guys. And then the one guy and he kills me because he's so funny, is Ricky Johnson. The guy just does so much for me when we actually pre-run together, and I can learn so much from that guy. It's unreal, the experience. And he'll be the first one to call me up and say, like when I was having the surgery, I told him it was getting to my head, and he's like, I'm going to tell you what to do. He goes, you're going to go and you're not going to do anything, and you're going to get a little fat, and I know you're not going to like that, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, but you're going to come back strong, and you're going to take the time. And for him to say that and just actually truly care about, and I get to race with this guy and pre-run, and he asked me to do it, it's pretty cool. And like I said, my dear friends, the Wilsons, just to get to do the stuff with them, it was like a dream come true to me. And Kevin Smith, and it was just a dream come true to me to be able to call those guys my friends, and to be around them, and actually just to hear their experiences and hear their stories. But they make you laugh, and they can tell you, Ricky Johnson, he saved one of my friend's kids, probably saved his life in Mexico. Imhoff, and he waited on the side till they got help. When Justin Imhoff was riding for Team Honda for Johnny and the team, and he got seriously hurt, and Rick Johnson stayed there and waited. And I thought, and we've all done it, right? And helped out. That's what it's about. That's life right there, to me anyways. Like, that's what impresses me.
So. And there's so many great stories like that in the desert. Hey, Sammy, where can people find you on social media? Do you know?
Yeah, so I do have a Facebook, Sammy Ehrenberg, but I also have Sammy Ehrenberg 44 on Instagram, where I try to post. I'm not great at it, but I try to post some of my experiences and in all of the stuff that I do, and some of my training stuff, riding my mountain bike and doing that stuff, or places I've been, and I went and rode motorcycles in Colorado. It's some of the craziest stuff I've ever done, and most beautiful stuff. I had to go retrieve a motorcycle that was hanging off a cliff, and I flew out to help my friend Larry Jobe, and we went and rode, and I ended up breaking my wrist, and but I had the greatest time. And so I try to post those kind of things, and I'm not a real big social media guy, but yeah, those things. And I love if anybody recognizes me out at the races when I'm like in a tech or whatever. I love to meet new people and talk to people. And so I like when people come up and actually, if they recognize me or they don't, or they have a question, I love talking racing, just like I'm talking with you. Probably talking your ear off. You probably have a question.
You're great, brother. You're great. Hey, I appreciate you coming on the show. You're part of the ATV-TALK family, which you already knew that. There's so many more stories that we want to talk about, and we will definitely get you back on. Sammy, please keep us updated on how your recovery's coming, and make sure that before you go to the next race, let us know so that we can keep track of it. And I will definitely ask your wife permission before I ask you to ride on one of my machines in the desert. Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show.